I am an introvert, and for years I was ashamed of it. Introverts have always gotten a really bad rap, and there are all these assumptions made about them that have always really upset me. That introverts are rude, that they don't care about other people, that they are selfish and arrogant, that they are judgmental of other people and think they are above them. I can tell you right now that this is very much not true, but if you're an introvert like me, you probably know that already, right? The thing that confused me the most all my life was that I am not really an introvert all the time. Sometimes I crave social interaction and being around people. So, I guess I'm a mix of introvert and extrovert. And even when I'm 100% introvert, it can still mean different things on different days. Because as it turns out, there isn't one size fits all for introverts. Actually, most of us are an interesting mix. And if you've ever been confused like I was about this issue, hopefully this video will help you get a little bit more clarity about it. Here's what I can tell you about me as a proud introvert. I love people, I really do. But most times, interacting with them, particularly with people I don't know, is a challenge for me. Because I know how socially awkward I can be, and I struggle to make small talk. It's just something that requires a lot of energy for me to do, because it's just not natural. Now, another thing most people don't understand about introverts is that most introverts love being alone, and that it doesn't feel lonely at all. For starters, because being alone means no effort required, so it's very comfortable. Also, it allows me to think and to do all the things I love doing without having to worry about anyone else. Now, I do feel lonely at times, but if I'm being totally honest, most of those moments happen when I'm around other people. Because when social interactions get really awkward for me, they make me feel like an outsider and misunderstood, and that is what makes me feel most alone. I really do believe that the difference between an introvert and an extrovert comes down to the way we handle certain situations, which would explain why you can be a mix of the 4 types of introvert, or even be a mix between an introvert and an extrovert like me, because depending on the situation, it brings out that particular reaction from you. Jonathan Cheek, who teaches personality psychology at Wellesley College, has determined that there are 4 types of introverts: social, thinking, anxious, and restrained, and that you can be a combination of the 4 or identify with some but not others. There really is no mold we as introverts must all fit into, okay? And learning this has allowed me to identify and accept my particular mix, and I really hope it can do the same for you. Now, the first and most known type are the social introverts, and these are the ones who are seen as shy or timid in a social setting. This has always been the case for me, but as it turns out, I'm not shy at all. As I've mentioned, I'm just really socially awkward and enjoy my alone time. Now, social introverts usually prefer to spend time with a few friends over a crowd and don't become particularly anxious by being around people. The thing with them is they are homebodies who would pick a good book over a party any day. Any day. Now, if you're a social introvert like me, you must create alone time to recharge your energy frequently. Don't force yourself to be on the go at all times for other people's sake. And then you have the thinking introverts, people who live in their own heads, who are always deep in thought. Here's the thing. Thinking introverts don't mind people or social interactions at all, as long as people don't mind that sometimes, most times, they aren't really paying attention to anything that's being said around them. And I have to say, I'm also guilty of this one, but mine is actually worse. So yeah, we sometimes struggle with communicating with each other because half of what's said gets lost in translation. And I get lost a lot when driving. I start with a destination in mind, then thoughts take over, and I end up at a completely different place. Has that ever happened to you? I find that journaling really helps me. I do frequent brain dumps, just getting everything that's going around in my brain into paper before it completely takes over my life. I also need time to do things I love, like my hobbies. I'm a quilter, and those moments I'm cutting fabric or on the sewing machine, my brain is just happy, and so am I. It's the most relaxed I get. Also, and this is so much more important for me than I would have thought, thinking introverts need to choose their careers accordingly, okay? One that doesn't require your immediate attention or focus, one that allows you time in your head, ideally that actually favors it. After trying so many different careers, being a content creator is by far the one that works best with the thinking introvert in me. Most importantly, don't lose yourself in your head and make time to be with others, to build and maintain meaningful relationships. Next, we have anxious introverts, which are, in my opinion, the ones that struggle the most with being introverts. Because for anxious introverts, social interactions can be almost painful. So much so, they end up purposefully isolating themselves to protect themselves. Mike is an anxious introvert, and things like a crowded supermarket when we're shopping or a family dinner will be enough to make him so exhausted he will need to go and take a nap to recover. It's even worse for people who feel awkward or self-conscious of their social skills because the effort to interact with others, particularly strangers, is that much bigger. And the anxiety doesn't end when they're alone again because they tend to brood over things they wish they could have done differently and said differently, even after it's all over. For anxious introverts, the most important thing they can do is to clearly identify their triggers and prepare beforehand for them, Find the tools that work for you for dealing with these situations to handle them better. And of course, don't let your anxiety isolate you. Find a supportive group of people who love and support you and open up to them when you're struggling, okay? And if you find your anxiety is crippling or preventing you from doing the things that are important to you, please seek professional help, like a therapist or a doctor, okay? And then we have restrained introverts. How many times have you wanted to say something in a conversation but didn't because you began second-guessing yourself? And suddenly the moment is gone and you're left kicking yourself for not saying it. That's what being a restrained introvert feels like. We prefer to think before we speak. Spontaneous situations are not our friend, and it can take forever to make decisions. Also, restrained introverts don't usually do well with mornings because a lot of thought processes need to happen before we're ready to face the day, or anyone else for that matter, which means we need extra time in the mornings to get the ball rolling, Otherwise, we will just start the day really overwhelmed. Likewise, we need a moment at the end of the day to de-stress and work through all the day events. Now, if you're a restrained introvert like me and you need to share your thoughts or present a project or anything that requires you to communicate with others, take time to organize your ideas first and allow yourself as many pauses and deep breaths as you require to continue. Most importantly, regardless of how many types you identify with, be kind with yourself, okay? Accept that you deal with situations differently than other people and that there is nothing wrong with that. Create the ideal conditions for you to live a life as an introvert stress-free and allow yourself to be your unique self without judgment. Introverts are fascinating people, if I may say so myself, with deep, creative thoughts, and being a part of an introvert's inner circle is truly a privilege. So never forget that and never let anyone else tell you differently. Keep your inner circles Keep your inner circles. Keep your inner circles